The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, it's Rob here with Osmium, and today we're going to go through, well, you know why we're here today. We're going to be talking about the reboot, the new layout and everything like that you've been experiencing, and we'll have an opportunity for you guys to provide some feedback to us, as well as talk about some of the new features and answer some of the questions that have arisen from this change. We've got about 25 people that have registered for this webinar, and we have 16 people that have shown up. So I'm just going to give it a few more minutes, and when we get to about, say, just over 20, we'll get started. Okay, so I will be back in 1 second. Actually, if someone can just put in the chat box if they can hear me okay, and just make sure I'm not only speaking to myself. Thanks. Okay, so it looks like we've maxed out about 16, 17 people. The session is being recorded, so anybody who did register will be able to pick up the recording, and you will be able to distribute a copy of this webinar to any of your other staff members that were unable to attend. So before we get started, just let you know, it will probably say Thomas Sleck on the as to who I am. That's not true. My name is Rob Ralph. I'm your project manager. I'm just using Thomas's account. So if you like it, it's Rob. If you hate it, it's Thomas. So let's get started. First thing, sort of a general thing of what we're going to do. I'm going to be going through pretty much each screen in as much detail as I think we need to talk about. If you do have a question that pertains to the particular screen that I'm talking about, then by all means, please pop it in. I will try and monitor the question and also the chat boxes as we go along. If you have general questions, or if I didn't address a situation about a screen, we'll save some time and we'll answer all your questions at the end and move forward. So a couple of cleanup things. First, we are aware, and thank you very much for all the feedback that we've gotten from you people. It's been great. We've made changes and addressed almost every single question that has come up. The only ones that we haven't addressed yet are anything about surveys or reports. The reports don't get created until we have the layout completely finalized, and same with the survey. So those will be done quite soon. We've just got a few more tweaks that we need to do. The second thing, what you're going to see on my screen is going to be slightly different. And Are you able to see my screen right now? Do you see my mouse moving around? If I could get a yes or a no from somebody. Okay, perfect, good, because I've done this before and it didn't work out well when I had the screen frozen. Anyways, at the very top, you will see they'll have the name of the screen you have, person list, that's the name of the screen that's open right now, and then Kentucky, meaning it's the Kentucky model file, and then important over here, we're adding this new, and this will indicate which version of the model file you're on currently. So this is the latest model file that we've made changes to. It's 10-2-2018, and you will not have this model file yet. So this model file encompasses some of the changes that you have asked for or talked about, and we will be getting this model file out to you today at some point, and along with changes that we will push through that will update your database for things we can't fix through the model file. So you need to have the two working in concert. You need to have the model file and also the script changes that will work on your database. And I will show you how you'll be able to identify if the script changes have come through. So if we just go and open up any client here, and I'm going to go straight to victimizations and create a new victimization. And you'll notice that victim type, it does no longer have protected content. If you have protected content after the model file and the scripts have gone through, then it means something failed with your database update. And please contact Osnium support or myself, and we will get that fixed for you. So after the model file and the script updates are through, this victim type should be clickable and you should be able to enable anything. So again, it's not on your system right now. It's coming. I'll be able to do it right after this. So you will get an email alerting you saying there's a script update coming to your database, and the email actually details all the things that we changed and have affected, and also an email with a model file attachment, or we might send out an email with a link to download the model file. Either way, you have to implement both of them, and if you do not see either 10-2-2018 at the top of your screen after you've imported the model file, contact support, and a victimization type or victim type is still protected content, contact support and we'll help you out. Okay, so we're on the client screen. One of the things that people were asking about was intake date, and does the intake date come over or not? It was actually a new field that was added. Previously you used arrival date, so we have taken all the values that were in arrival date and shoved them over into intake date, the new field, which is the standard field that most of our reports are getting automatically. So this client doesn't actually have an intake date on them, but you can see from my test database here that we have transferred over the arrival date fields into the intake date. I'll just open up a client here that has it, and you can see that after we give you your updates, intake date will be populated. Okay. So let's go back to the client. The next biggest thing that most of you will notice is that there are a heck of a lot of required fields on here. And these required fields are fields that are typically required by either a VOCA report or a HUD funder report or something, or they're ones that the coalition has determined that they really want to have you guys fill out. So if we go to general information, we do have a few more here, and you can always recognize a required field because that field is bordered in red. One of the questions that came up right away was, if I open a client that I had created maybe a year ago, maybe I didn't know some of this information and I didn't fill it out. How can I save it? If I try and save this right now, it will give me all kinds of errors saying these things must not be empty. Every one of these required fields will have an option that will say either unknown or other. So you'll always be able to fill something in to any one of these fields, either unknown or other. If for some reason you don't see that information there, then please contact us and we'll help you out. But you should be able to fill in every single one of these required fields. Date of birth is a special field, and it's really important that you fill this one in. If you don't have anything for date of birth and it's completely left blank, then the chances are your client record may not show up in a lot of reports because it doesn't know how to classify that client as an adult or a child, and many of our reports segregate the clients between adult and children. It actually doesn't go by whether or not it's considered a child or dependent. It looks at the birth date and does the calculation to see if they should be lumped in with the adults or the children. So please fill this in. If you don't know, I'm just going to clear out these fields for right now. If you don't know what the birth date is, and the way that this works is that you would enter an age. Say I want to put in, I'm going to use 10 for just very easy. As soon as I tap off that or click somewhere else, it will automatically create a date of birth based on the year and the current day. And then it will automatically check off this date of birth estimated field. You can uncheck it if you want, but that's how you would enter a date of birth if you don't know and you're only guessing at the person's age. So I'm just going to clear all that out. I'm going to do it one more time. So I haven't touched anything on date of birth. I don't know their exact date of birth. I'm going to put in, say, 30, and as soon as I press tab, or I'm going to click into alternate names, it will automatically assign a date of birth based on today's date. It'll use the year based on the age, and then it will automatically check this date of birth estimated field. If you want, you can always uncheck it. It's up to you. It just automatically does it when you enter an age without entering a birth date. Okay, so please make sure you fill that out as accurately as possible. A couple other things you're going to notice. And the first thing is that you no longer have the ability to add new fields. The fields that you have in demographics and pretty much every other value here are now standardized across all of Kentucky. And if I say Kansas instead of Kentucky, that's just because I've been doing a lot of work with Kansas, so I apologize in advance, but I'm going to try and keep the states proper. So all of Kentucky will have the exact same values, and they won't have the ability to add new, except in specific cases. And that's where, mainly for address fields, such as last stable home before homeless city, county, state, and then attended high school, city, and state. It would be unreasonable to add in every single city that a person could be from, as well as the county and the states and so on. So for these fields, you do have the new button, and you're able to go in and create your own city, your own county, and sometimes the new button shows up top. Yeah, depending on where the field is, it will either be at the top or the bottom. So you can fill in these fields. Now, I would advise that if you are doing this, let's take a look at the language field, for example. If we look at the language field, I'm going to fix this so that it should populate all the different options, plus give you a search button up here that will allow you to search by different things. If you don't see anything, it's not empty. You just need to click the search to start off. So like I said, I'm going to fix that so that all the values appear without having to press the search. But for right now, if you don't see anything, press this little search and it will populate all the values. One thing that happens when people are able to put in their own values is that a lot of times you'll end up with duplicate values, and they might be spelled slightly different. If this occurs, then by all means, please go ahead and contact support. We can clean up those lists for you. So if there is something that that you have created that's a duplicate, such as a duplicate city or state or something like that, let us know. We can go into the database, shift things around so that it will make sure that everybody has the exact same value. One of the other things you don't have the ability to do anymore is to delete or change these values within here. So that is something that that you can't do anymore. But in cases where there are fields you are filling out, such as attended high schools or these fields, it is something that we can do for you. This one goes out to, actually it can't work. Mary Stamper is saying that she has no sound. She's on a web version. It's probably your sound card is not turned up, but you can't hear me say this, so I will try and respond in a chat. Anyways, all right, moving forward. Again, we've made all these values common amongst everybody. The way that the program works hasn't changed. You still add your values the same way. You can select multiple at one time and so on. So I'm not going to dwell and spend any time on doing that kind of thing, but I will show you that it's pretty easy to create and add new values here. I'm just going to save this. So speaking about required fields, one of the questions came up about the address fields. So if I were to try and save this right now, you'll notice that of all the fields that are required, that are listed as errors, address is not one of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and put anything in here just so we can get something saved. There are a lot of required fields, I apologize, but your reports and the accuracy of your information will be much better, much easier for you to run and everything when we get all of this information entered. And literally, it may have taken me only 2 or 3 minutes to actually go through this in the first place. So now I can save this client and I won't get any errors. Now, if I go to the address field, as soon as I click on it, you'll notice that there are county and state are also required fields. I can cancel, I can put something else in here, and I can save without any issue. As soon as I enter something into the address field here, and then try and click OK, and then you get the error saying that you must enter the county and the state. And unfortunately, it's just the way that the database works. Until you actually put something in here, it has not created an address object or record. And so without something being created, it has nothing to say that there's something missing. Kind of weird to explain, but that's just how it works, is that you have to start entering something into the address field before the required fields kick in. So that's the bulk of the information, the changes that we've done. I'm not going to go through all the new fields that we added. They're pretty self-explanatory, especially when we have all of the required fields. But I'm just going to try and stick with the new functionality and the differences that are there. Now, one other thing that we do have here that's not on this one yet, it's an image. We have added an image screen, so you will be able to put in a photo of that person. Let me see if I can grab it for you right now while we're doing this. While I'm doing this, I'm going to check the questions to see if we have any new questions come up. Okay, so I'm just going to pause the screen while I get this set up. And we're back. So we do have a new image field that's part of the client screen, and to use that, if you haven't used one of those before, there's a couple ways you can get to it. You can right-click in the field here, and right now the only option for it is for us to load a new image. So I'm going to select load, and then I'm going to go and try and find a new image. Select your image, click OK, and you will get the image of your client put in there. Once you have it in there, you can right-click and cut it, copy, paste, delete, so on. You can also, in theory, capture from a webcam or from a scanner, but I've never experienced these things actually working, so I would just say take a picture with your phone and then put it on there from there. That's pretty much it for the new client screen, so I'm going to move on to the next one that was causing some issues, and that was the victimization screen. So let me just save this. Oh, I forgot to fill in some stuff. Moving on to the victimization screen. Click to create a new victimization. And then you'll notice victim type is available to choose. A primary victim is one where you are the target, I guess, of the victimization. So, for example, if a mother experiences domestic violence and the child is also being admitted, the child would be the secondary victim type because it's not directly, they're not the subject of the victimization, but they are related to it. So you can choose primary or secondary. The other fields are pretty self-explanatory. One here, IPV, oh, we're going to spell that out for you actually. That's interpersonal violence, I believe. And this typically deals with youth IPV. And now that we have this field here, again, no, yes, unknown, it's a required field, so you need to choose it. And then select the victimization type, one of these types. And then you can also add secondary victimization types as well if you need to. And then over here where it's additional victimization types, these are what VOCA has selected as victimization types. So we do have a question right now. We haven't had to enter victimization on children before. Will we now? It's a good idea if they have suffered a victimization or if they are considered a secondary victim type to enter that information. It will include them in reports, and they will be counted towards all of your reports and so on, and be a little bit more accurate than by not doing it, because in fact they are a victim as well of whatever they suffered. So I would try and include them as well as possible. And I will show you one other thing about services where that was a question, but let's just get back to here. Additional victimization types. These are the ones that VOCA has listed as their suggested list, I guess, is the best way of putting it, for victimization types. And primary abuser's relationship. And then we can, oh, I need to put in a date. Another date. The reason why these dates are so important, why you have to have them filled out, is because that's how the reports know if they should include or not these victimizations. So I'm just going to save and close. I'm going to save it. And what about non-residential clients? We do not always know the date required. That's a very good question. So what we can actually hear, date of victimization, there is a date of victimization estimated. You'll pretty much always know the date reported because that's the date they're bringing it forward to somebody. So if you don't know that, if they say that they reported it to the police, say like a month ago or so, you can estimate that time. But the actual date of victimization, that might not be something that's really clear in somebody's mind, so you can easily just put in that it was estimated or not. So I hope that answered that question for you. So I'm just going to close out of this. I'm not going to save the changes. and then we go to services. So services had a lot of changes. And we have gone through and made some additional changes as well. We're bringing back your service, your group services. So now you'll be able to enter multiple clients in through one session. And also we're bringing back staff member. It used to be a multi-select. We changed it to a single select. We're bringing that back to the old multi-select so you can have multiple staff members listed on both of those. It's actually a pretty good idea. And it probably is a more efficient way to enter services when you're doing group services and so on. And also this related victimization, it's still a required field, but now it's a warning, where it will be in a second. Let me see if we've got those changes made. I'm just grabbing anything right here. Yes, so now if you do not have a victimization and you're trying to add a service to them, it will still warn you saying victimization is empty but not required, so you can ignore and continue. You notice that it's grayed out, so we have saved this record without entering a related victimization. But it is a very, very good idea to fill that out if at all possible. When you use the drop down, it will list all the victimizations that are available to this particular client, and then you can just choose whichever one is most suitable. The other new thing about the services is that now we have a service category and a service field. So I'm just going to clear both of those out. When you use, the way you should always do it is go from the top down. Select your related victimization first. Your staff members will be in a different section. Under service category, use the drop down to select your service category. Now these are the categories that VOCA has said are acceptable to their reporting. So when you select, say, shelter and housing services, and then when you click on the service list, it will give you only two options here. If I just clear out the service category and then select all the services, these are all the services that are available, 56 of them. And then the way you would get to it is you would choose the category first, and then it will give you a limited subset of those services that are related to that service category. This will make reporting so much easier for you. In previous reports, or in previous ways you would have to do it, I think your old KCADV report would only look for exact spelling of particular services. So if something was added or if it was spelled slightly different, it would not be included in the report at all. Now with our new flex style reports, it will grab all the values regardless of the spelling, but because we're using exactly what VOCA has suggested for us to use, the reports will be faster and easier to do. Now this won't really take effect until you start using and get the new data in here, but I'll talk about that. I'm going to go through the VOCA report at the end, so we will talk about that a bit further on. But just so you know, we do have a document that will list, it's an Excel spreadsheet that just lists all the services and all of their related categories. So you might just want to print that off and keep it by your desk or something like that. So when you do come along to a service, until you get used to knowing where everything is, it's a little cheat sheet for know that, okay, if I want to do a notification of criminal justice, then it's going to be justice system. So you can go back and forth either way, but the easiest way is to quickly select, okay, children and youth services, and these are my options under that category. A couple other things here: service location, shelter, offsite, office, method of contact, face-to-face, email, phone, or text. These are all questions and values that either VOCA or VAWA or one of the other major reports, funder reports, asks. And then there's one down here called service type. Now service type acts a little bit different, and this is if this service was fully served, not served, or partially served. That's up to your agencies to determine which category it falls in. If you select fully served, you can save the record, no problem. Everything works. If you select partially or not served, then you need to provide a reason. The reason field will only appear if you select not served or partially served. If you select fully served, you won't see it. And as of right now, let me see if I can save it. No, yeah, so if you have anything other than fully served, then you need to fill in the reason field. It won't be bordered in red, but it is a required field. So then it gives you a list of the different reasons why it was partially served, conflict of interest, hours of operations. You guys will be able to read all your different values and so on. But that is something that it is a required field when service level is not fully served. Okay. So again, this is going to look a little bit different, and I'm trying to remember which funder. I want to say Dipset or VAWA, I think, for service level. But yeah, the actual deciding if something is fully, partially, or not served, it is subjective to whichever agency decides, or if the coalition wants to put together some kind of guidelines, they'd be able to do that, but they don't really detail. I'll double check, but I don't think they really detail exactly what it means to be fully, partially, or not. I would assume that it's either fully means you've finished whatever you've done, not served means you didn't help them at all, and partially is anything in between. Okay. So when you're entering a service as well, a lot of times you say, but Rob, we provide many services to people at the same time. Do I have to fill one of these in each time? Yes and no. When you save a client service record, you'll notice that there is a copy button up in the top. I'm just going to actually close this first, and we'll see, okay, so the start on date is 10/2/2018. You go back here, there's the service I just created. So I'm going to save it. When I have a saved record, I can do two things. From this screen, I can highlight the service that I want to save and press copy, and then it will duplicate that service record. All I need to do is change what needs to be changed. So I will clear out service. I will use a new drop down for shelter and housing. I'll choose my new choice in that. I'm going to change the date just so it's easy to identify. Save and close, and there, that's how easy it is to give a second service. So if I actually go through and create a new one, it works the same way. I'm going to go information referral, select the service. I filled out everything that I need to fill out. I'm just going to click save, and you notice right away I have the copy button available. And I can copy it, change what I need to change, save and close, and you're going to see that's how easy it is to keep multiple records right away. So we do have a question about why staff member did not pull over, and the reason why, it's just in the back end. Staff member here is one value called staff member. It grabs any values that are staff members. That was a really awkward way to say it. There's another field called resources, and that gives you a multiple select value, and it pulls from the same list of all staff members, but it's a different field that comes up. So we have gone back, and instead of using this single select staff member, we have put back the old resources, which is still called staff member list. So all of your data will still be there. It'll just now show up. So it's kind of weird to explain, but it'll look the way you expected it to look. And that's one other thing I just want to sort of take the time to explain. And I know there's probably a lot of anxiety or trepidation about what we've done. It looks like a lot of your stuff might be missing, like all of the arrival dates and intake dates. We have not touched one piece of information in your database. The only thing we've done has changed the different drop-down values that appear. So in the database, there are basically two tables. One table that says, what values can I show for service category? And it will list all the different values. There's another table that says, what values are linked to a particular person? And so when you save a record, it creates a new row in that table, and so that this new client will get a new service record attached. We never ever go back and touch those pieces of data to remove them. So don't worry if something's not showing up. As we go through, we may find a few other cases where something might be missing, or seem to be missing, like staff member, but we'll be able to fix everything. We didn't destroy or delete or remove or alter any of your existing values, except for the demographics. The demographics, we remapped things. So if gender was spelt, say, female with a lowercase f, or woman instead of female, we remapped and changed all those values to read the new female. So we have a question. How do we save one group service for several clients at once instead of individually? So that's the change that we were making, is we're bringing back that field that used to say resources. I'm just going to pause for 1 second and see if I can grab that for you, because we did the changes and I'd like to show them. Just 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so what I wanted to show you, unfortunately I couldn't. You just have to trust me that there will be a field here called persons, and it will allow you to add multiple clients or children to this service. And then when you save it, they will all have this particular service linked to them. So in the new system, the standard way of doing it would be going to the scheduler. And then once you're in the scheduler, once it comes up here, there we go. You would right-click New Service, and then you would have the ability to add in multiple clients through here. But due to popular demand, we decided to bring it back into the original service category like you guys had from the start. So that functionality won't change. You can still go and create group services through the scheduler if you're doing that before. And there's other modules as well, such as outreach, that still exists for group things, but not for. We're going back to the old way that you were used to doing it for services. So I hope that answered your question there. So moving on, there is a question. We only have the options for support groups. What about recreational educational groups? We will talk about that in the outreach section, so please make sure I do talk about that for sure. So let's move on. So the stays area, again, it will look a little bit different. We've added, a lot more information. One of the questions somebody had was that discharge date didn't come across. On all of my records and all of my testing, the discharge date did come through properly. So if you are experiencing something different, then please, by all means, let me know about that. Actually, I do have a request for demonstrating the entering a group the old way. And I do have the original layout here, so I'll just bring it up. So let's just bring it up. So this is the original Kentucky layout where you had it before. I'm going into activities. I'll click new to create a new activity. And here's where I can, once I add in the session type, funder is no longer there. We'll probably discuss that later on. And then I can either click new here. Oh, sorry. No, I want to click to add a person. So I can search. This is a huge database, so it might take a few seconds to pull up all the people. There we go. Or I could have searched it by the name. Once you select that person, oh, did I choose the same person? Yeah, I think I did. I'll choose something else. I'll tab off it, and then that will, when I save this, it will put this service out to both of these people. Now, I had a question earlier about someone saying, can they search these things? Oh, shoot, keep pressing the wrong button. Can they search for a person by the person ID instead of by the name? You can. And this is something that you can probably, pretty sure you can still change. If you right click along the top header row there, select column chooser, it's going to expand this a little bit. You can go down and find the person ID, drag it in here, and then when it's a field here, then you can search for it. I believe I enabled it on the new model file, so you'll be able to get that from, it should be enabled automatically on your, when we get that new model file out to you. But I will go back to close this off, no changes, and I'll go back to the new model file. So before I go, any other questions on services? I know what's going to happen. Somebody's going to be typing in a question. I'm going to move on because I'm not going to see it for a few minutes. But anyways, I will move on to stays. Like we said, there's not a lot of required fields on a stay. Just going to quickly save it. You may get this warning here, but it's just a warning. You can ignore it. Stay type must not be empty. I'm going to select it. Now, I'm wondering if I made the change to this version of the database or not. It should have, if I enter a new project entry, let's see if, oh, good, they are enabled. So one of the questions was, how can I enter a new HUD record when project location and HUD assigned COC codes were both protected content? We have fixed that, so it's no longer protected content for you. The HUD assigned COC code is not something that most people will ever need to use. It's just something that was done as a request by a collection of agencies so that they could try and differentiate some stuff. But it's not a official HUD project, I believe. I think that's the story behind it. I don't know. We have other people that do all the work on HUD, and I just get alerted when there's a new report out. One thing you should notice, though, if I close this off, you would have had an email or something a while back about project updates and annual assessments, and that there are fields missing and you need to contact support to get them enabled. We have put them onto your layout right now. So under disabling condition, under personal details and project update, disabling condition was not there previously, and it's required in the report, and we've enabled that. So we've fixed those things for annual assessment and project update. Otherwise, HUD will work exactly the same way as before. And really, all you have is a bit more information on this stays thing than you had before. It's got a little bit more detail. Here's the old one. And then, yeah, so there's a few other different pieces, but it's not changed dramatically. There's a few values that are preset and so on. So stays shouldn't be a real big issue. We've kept those other modules such as bed nights, nights away and bed assignments and household information. I'll tell you if there's any associated stays. And I believe you had the functionality for when you create a stay and you have a child. Let me just create a quick child here. Waiting to create a quick child. There we go. And I think that's it. Save and close. And I'm going to, I don't need to save the client because a child is a separate object, blah, blah, blah. Not really that important. But when I create a new stay, like I said, I think you had this information or this functionality before. When I go to save it, it will ask me if I want to copy the state to the client's children, and then I can say yes. And when I save and close, I can go back to that. Oh, I need to save the stay. Save the stay. I can go back to the child, open up the child, and then I will see that the stay I created under the parent has been copied to the child. Now, when you do this, only the stay record gets copied. The HUD information needs to be entered separately and manually. We do not ever copy over HUD information, and you cannot copy HUD information from a parent to a child. You need to do the child records separately. And we had a question about putting the picture of the children on the record, and that's a good idea. I will add that right now. Well, not right now, but I'll make a note. Thank you, Beth. So, moving forward, we've done the stays, referrals. It's very basic. This is a bit of a change. We've created new values under referral destination. Select it. These are preset values, and then referral results, so on. And we'll double check to make sure that those are the right values. I'm going to double check on referral results because we may have overwritten the options, but I'll check with Katie and Isabella on that one. And it will be cleaned up if we need to for that new model file that's going out to you. So somebody put in a note saying that they noticed many of the KCAD services are gone. Health advocacy, I guess, legal advocacy, follow-up, and so on. Are these are now eligible services? Yes and no. See, there's always going to be some kind of option for what you're trying to find. It will be in here. I'm just getting a note saying that they will be recategorized, and Katie's asking you to email her. So if anybody has questions about their current KCDB services and how they map to the new services, please contact Katie, and she will let you know. And maybe what we might do is we might try and include that. I'll talk to Katie about this, but maybe we'll try and include that in my list that details the service and the category that's associated with. Okay, so financial assistance, nothing really changed there, protection orders and so on. Related calls, let's take a look at the related calls screen. That one changed up a little bit. So again, we do have some required fields. Call type, call result. Let's see if there's any others kicking around. And a warning. So call type must be entered. Crisis line, hotline, information or referral. And then call result. Approved. These are the standard result or call result questions you can answer. And then duration. It's a field here. It says that you'll get a warning if the duration is 0, so you can leave it or you can add in a duration either way. File attachments also appears down here, so if you do have any attachments to include with the call, then you can attach it here. We do have a notes field. Oh, and we do have another question about demonstrating the merge functionality, and I will show you that as soon as I get through this. Couple other points here. There's a new call notes field. There's another field here that if the person is a caller but not a client, and you want to make sure that they recognize that they have children or dependents, there's 2 pieces you can fill out. You can actually put in the number of dependents here, and then in this section you would probably put in some identifying information saying a boy named Timmy, age 5 or something like that. Unfortunately, we don't have enough drop downs or enough space to actually list or create more a higher level of technology functioning than just a simple notepad. But we can run reports and get results on the number of dependents for people who are not clients. And you'll be able to track some details about those dependents here. A couple of other fields here, such as abuse and so on. The rest is pretty standard. You guys are used to doing these type of things. I did have a question about alleged abuser not showing up in a call, but according to my versions here, they are showing up. So if you do not have that information there, let me know. If it was blank, then click on this search button over here, and that should populate this list. So that sometimes happens for you. I'm just going to put something in, save and close, and then move on so we have a call. Surveys. I'm going to skip over surveys because I haven't really talked to that at all about surveys with Katie and Uzella, but I think we do have something that we need to get for you, but surveys will be coming. So we did have a question about merge objects. So this happens, people will put in clients and they'll end up having a duplicate client put in there at some point. So if you do have a duplicate client, you can easily merge the two records without having to do any or very little manual work. So what you would do is you would open up the record that you want to keep. Typically that's the one that has the most information filled out about it. Then you click the Merge Objects button. At the top, you'll get this warning saying merging objects results in the object you select in the next list will be deleted. So I'm going to say yes. And then it pops up a list of all the clients. I'm just going to say sort this one from the very beginning. So we have a person ID 392. So I'm just going to cancel this, go to the person's list quickly, and search. Let's see if I can find 392 somewhere. This might be a really big list to try and find. Yeah, they're there. So we can see that client is there. So I'm going to go back, merge objects, yes. I'm going to select client 392, just make sure that is, yep. That's the client I'm going to choose. Am I frozen? Nope, I'm not frozen. And then I'm going to click OK, and I'll get another warning. No, I won't. And then all of a sudden, I bring over all of their services that they had on their screen as well. I'm going to save and close. And because there are some errors here, I would need to fix those up before I go through. And that's simply the way we're going to have to get used to it. There's going to be some stuff where you're going to merge clients that are missing some information. So you're going to need to go into the different values and find out what's missing and fill it in. Yeah. So it's a bit of a pain sometimes to actually clean up, but you're actually saving a lot of time instead of having to add in these, what's this, like 15 other records by itself. So the merge objects is there and it works. What I would suggest, which might be a better way to do it, is when you go through and do the merge objects and you select that client that you want to, you find that client, I would suggest going back to the person list first, finding that person, opening them up, and cleaning up any information that needs to be cleaned up before you try and merge. It'll make your life a lot easier. So I'm going to, let's see if I can cancel and not save any changes. I've never canceled a merge, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. Anyways, if I accidentally fill something in on the wrong client, will you be able to delete the record? Agency admins will have the ability to delete client records. The regular users and reports role does not. So let's talk about the roles while we're here right now. Previous to this reboot, there were several different roles all the way up from the full administrator, administrator no customization, all the way down to volunteer. Now there are only 3 roles: an agency administrator, regular users plus reports, and staff read-only. So if you were an administrator, you have automatically be transferred over to the agency administrators. If you were anything else, you became a regular user plus reports. If you need to prevent somebody from entering any information, you need to go back and change them over to a staff read-only role. So that's, I can show you right here. So if I go to staff person, I look at add, I have agency administrators, regular users and reports, and then staff read-only. Those are the only 3 roles we have right now. If we find in the future that we need to add a 4th or even a 5th role, we can do so. But for right now, it's just a choice of 3. And keep us posted. Let us know how it's working out. We find that I find that simplifying things makes it easier and works better for everybody in the long run. But there are times when we need a little more flexibility. But I think I went way off topic there. Somebody was asking about deleting a wrong client. Well, if you accidentally fill something in on the wrong client, we'll be able to delete the record. No, if you accidentally create a new service record, well, yes, you can. Sorry. So let me just save and close. So if I have created this service record and it shouldn't be there, then as an agency administrator, I do have the delete function that I can go ahead and delete that record. If I've entered something incorrectly, then you just go through and change the value. So I'm hoping I'm answering that question for you. And I have another question here. What's the difference between regular user plus reports and staff read-only? Regular user plus reports can add in values to certain things. A staff read-only cannot, so they can't create anything new. So they would be someone that can only view what you've created. They can't create new records or change any records. So hopefully that explains it. If there's, that might be for like a volunteer or something like that, somebody who needs to be able to maybe give them a list of people to contact that have to do something, and you can trust that they can have access to Osmium and they won't make any changes or delete anything, but they'll still be able to access the information to, say, get their contact information or answer some questions like that. So no, they can't enter activities. Staff read-only is strictly read-only. They have no creation abilities. So again, let us know if you need something in between those three records. So moving on, let's see what else there is to talk about here. I think we've pretty much done everything on the client screen. So I'm now going to move over. I'm going to just briefly look at the child. The child screen is typically a mirror of a lot of the information on the client screen. We're going to add in the photo, of course. Excuse me. But there's a school section. I'm not sure if this is new for you or not. You can add in school information, names, principal, teachers, addresses, and phones, and so on. You can have multiple records here, but everything else should pretty much be the same. And then on the abuser, I think we actually added a bunch of things to the abuser. Let's just open one up and see what we got here. I think this section is all new to you. I'm just going to quickly go and take a look at your old one. Yeah, your old one didn't have a lot of this information here, this risk assessment. It's not a required field. By definition, checkboxes can't be required, but I do believe that these, if you can fill it out, please do so. It's good information to have. And you also have the alert box on the abuser. And Katie, I'm not sure if you want to keep this one on the abuser. It's one you didn't have before. So if I check this box off and put alert note in here and save and close, Yeah, so we're gonna get rid of this one, this functionality. So we won't even bother showing it to you. So the abuser has a few. It's more like it's just cleaned up a little bit and gives you a bit more information. Still, a lot of tabs that you had are still there. There's a vehicles tab, substances used. Related victimizations will show you anybody who is linked to this abuser. And we have a question. Relationship to head of household no longer on HUD data. HUD was not changed at all, so if it was there before, it will still be there. Let me just quickly go into a stay record here. Oh, I don't have one. Wonderful. Head of household under, so there is head of household information, and this would show you that. If something's missing, forward it to Katie, and then Katie will confirm that it's something that they want to add in, and we'll get that done. So let's move on to a new section where a lot of things have changed, and that's in the outreach section. So if we go to the outreach section and we open up one, you'll notice that there are a lot of different sections here. And this even looks a little bit different. No. So we have the old outreach section that you had. Under community education, there is communication for adults or youth. You can put in the number of people. This will also allow you to say that you've put out certain products, you've developed, distributed, or revised different products. It will list the product type, the number, and so on. So there's a lot of different sections here. This section is for if you're doing any training, training scope, community-based, statewide, and so on. I would invite you to go and explore this section as much as possible. It's a little bit tricky when you're doing it, and we're going to have to put together some kind of a cheat sheet for you to let you know how to use this. I don't even want to try and go through it because I know I'm going to miss something, but I will point out a couple of things right now. What you want to do when you're doing this section is look in these little boxes. So there's technical assistance, meetings attended, convened, outreach, and trainings. Fill in what you can in these little boxes, and I would suggest only doing one record per box. So you could technically, on this outreach record, do some technical assistance and also record that you had a meeting attended or convened and do outreach and training. But I would strongly suggest you only do one of these little mini modules at a time. So if I'm doing technical assistance, I'm going to select the type of technical assistance that was provided. Say it was a site visit. Who is the recipient? Say it was a dual essay DV program. And then here's where you're going to have to get used to doing things, and here's where we'll provide the cheat sheet. For technical assistance, you would go through, and then you could add in a topic. So technical assistance, I can say I did civic codes, court response, criminal codes, and you can provide information about the topics for your technical assistance. So now on this case, I would go ahead and save this as just my technical assistance set or record. If I were to close this off, I need to do, say, a meeting. I would create a new outreach, and I would go to the meetings and say I attended a meeting, and the subject of the meeting was domestic violence, and the meeting partner was, say, child welfare, and there's nothing under meetings here. I think it's under outreach audience type. No, see, this one's just for products and training. So we're gonna have to work together. We're gonna have to provide you with a guide on how to fill this out. But I think it's probably, okay, just mentioning something. Yeah, I think it's probably worth it if we do a separate training session for this portion only, because it's maybe I'll do like a video or something on how to do this, because it is tricky. But once you get the hang of it, it works like a charm, and you can grab so much information and so much detail on this stuff. And these are all things that we can do reports on, so it'll help quite a bit. But just be aware that the outreach session has changed quite dramatically. I'm just going to make a note here to provide some training materials for that. So let's move on to reporting. The only thing that we've done in reporting is we put together a VOCA report that will allow you to run VOCA. And it's more, we're going to be doing VOCA reports and all of your fund reports in a different style, in the old one-click style. This is right now done in the flex style. And what I mean by flexible style, I'm just going to start this report up, is that it grabs whatever values you have and reports on them. The old one-click spreadsheet type reports look for exact spelling of particular values. So for example, if I was trying to do a report and I wanted to report on the gender of all my clients, if the report was looking for female with a capital F, if you had filled in female with a lowercase f or a woman, those reports or those records would get ignored and it would not count towards that report. And to make matters worse, you would not know, it would not throw an error on that. It would just simply be a different count than what you're expecting. These flex style reports, they grab all the values that are within that field and report on them. And there's something a little bit new here for some people. And I'm just going to go back a bit and I'm going to talk about blackout date, start date, and end date, because those are terms you're going to read a lot about coming up in the future. So I'm just going to quickly run the report and we'll see the different bits of information that these reports will be kicking out. Actually, while we're waiting for that report, I can talk about blackout date, start date, and end date. And I have a visual aid. So this will work for any subject you're talking about, whether it's a stay or a service or a call or something like that, or a victimization. This one's done for services. So for example, if you have a service between the start date and the end date, and you do not have a service between the blackout date and the start date, you are considered a new client, also sometimes called an unduplicated client. If you have a service between the blackout date and the start date, and another service between the start date and the end date, you are considered a returning client, also known as a duplicate client. If you only have a service between the blackout and the start, and you do not have a service between the start and end dates, you will not show up in the report at all. So that's how the system will calculate your new versus returning or duplicated versus unduplicated clients. Typically, your blackout date will be your fiscal start date. And we had a request for a PDF, and yes, I can provide a PDF of that for you guys. So this is how pretty much all of our, oh my goodness, this report's 85 pages long. Eesh. I should have gone with a smaller range. But anyways, this report is, I wonder if I stop it, if I'm going to get anything here. I don't think I can stop it. This is how these flex reports will look. The first chunk will be what we call a list column, and we're able to determine what pieces of information you want to see in these columns here. So right now it's client name, the date of the report, what type of a service, this is the age band, and then the status if they are new versus returning. Oh, 97 pages. So there's a lot of information here, and it will list every single record that makes up this report. What you can do, I'm not going to do it, but if you click this hide details button, it will hide all of these individual records and you won't see them. So if I scroll all the way down to the end, oh, I pressed stop. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to try a very much smaller date range than that. I didn't realize that this was such a massive database. Let me just try 3 days. There we go. That's the speed of a report that I wanted. So we see the same listing of all the different client records. If If I click on hide details, it's going to rerun the report, and it will only show me a summary of those. So it hides all those client records, and it'll show me there's 110 clients who received 456 services. We can do other calculations here, and then you're going to see a series of charts here. This one will show you the client status that have services in this time. There are 29 that were considered new, 81 that were considered returning, and 110 total. And you should see a lot of these totals match up here and here. And then here's where we get into the race and ethnicity of people. And it's divided up by new versus returning. So we'll have new, people that identified as either Hispanic or Latino, and then within that, how they identified with race. And then we'll get some totals as well. So you're going to be able to get the total numbers that you need to use for the VOCA report, for other reports quite quickly and easily. And you'll notice that where we say, I think there's some here that are, no, we don't have any here. But if there was a different value in here for race, such as, I don't know, if they use Caucasian instead of white, it would automatically pick up that value. But because we're making all of these reports and everybody the same, you're going to have the same set of values, and so we'll be able to do some statewide or coalition-wide reports by gathering that information and make it easier for you guys to report on things and ask for more money. And that's really how it works. We try and put in as much detail about the questions and how it works and everything like that. I do have a point. Somebody says this looks great. It mirrors the HUD. And it does look like it, but unfortunately you can't double click on these numbers and get any results. I wish you could, but that takes a lot of programming time to create those type of reports, so unfortunately no. But this is an example of the type of reports that you're going to be able to run. And you do probably have some other reports on your database, but they're probably not working. And that's because we haven't gone through and edited them to make them work properly. But it won't take long. Once we've confirmed the layout, we'll be able to get that done for you. And we're actually looking at making these reports into what we call the one-click report, so it mirrors the actual report even closer and makes it a little bit better for you to run. But I wanted to bring that up to you so you can understand what blackout start date and end date means. So just think of blackout date as your fiscal year start date, and then the start date and end dates are the period that you're reporting on. So you think of it that way and you should be good. Otherwise, you can also select certain parameters. Say I only want to see the new clients. I click on new, I hit submit, and then I'll see a subset. So instead of 110, I think there's 21 or something like that, or 29 clients that were new. Yeah, so there's the 29 clients instead of the 110, and I only see new clients. So that's how you use these filtering parameters at the end. If you want to only show a particular set of services, you can select them. But because this service list here works for the current list of services and not your old list of services, it's not going to really filter or help you out very much. So there'll be a bit of a transition period between when the new reports truly click in and when the old reports don't. So somebody had a question. Someone commented that they were concerned that client name shows up. Is that a problem? Oh, yep. So yeah, you can click this show details to either display the client names or to hide the client names. And that will be the same for any one of our flexible reports that you will soon get. So that's pretty much it for the reports. Again, that was like a really 30-second high-level view of the VOCA report, but more will be to come. Once we finalize the exact layout and make sure all the fields are proper, then we'll be able to design the reports, push them out to you, and get them done right away. So that's pretty much all of the stuff that has changed. The other functionality, working with lists and so on, using the column chooser to select your lists, being able to drag and remove the lists and so on, all the other functionality stays the same. It's mainly just the layout and some of those required fields that are the biggest changes that you've experienced. And please, if you do notice something that's changed and you feel it's either incorrect or is an error or something like that, please let us know. We'll have to work together to get the layout proper. We do have another question. Why is there not a subject line in progress notes? That's a good question. Let's take a look at it. We probably should create a subject line, something that you can fill in with whatever you want. So we'll get that for you. We'll add progress notes. I'll take a look. If you guys had one before, then I'll use that same field over again so that any information you've added will still be displayed on those records where it was filled out. So that's an example of the kind of stuff that we want to hear about. If there are things that we've missed or are incorrect or something like that, especially if it's data that you've already filled out, please let us know and we can make those changes for you. So you're probably going to get, well, actually, you know what? We do have some changes to make, so it'll probably be first thing tomorrow that you'll wake up in the morning and you'll have a new model file waiting for you to import and some changes to your database that will have happened automatically for you. So we're getting kind of close to the end here, and my voice is getting a little bit raw. So if you do have any more questions, please go ahead and we'll try and answer any questions we have for you, and we'll make sure that we get this recording out to you this right away. So, like Fraser Crane says, I'm listening, or reading, as the case may be. Okay. Can the staff, here's a question, can the staff members be pulled over? You cannot determine who provided the service last month. Yes. Under services, there used to be a multi-select value here for staff member. You can add in multiple staff members. It was replaced by a single select, and the staff will now be changed back to that multi-select, so you'll see all of those. I had a question, can staff be made inactive? I believe so. I don't think we changed anything there. So we could go into, well, I probably can't do it to myself. Let me grab somebody else here. Yep, I can make a staff inactive or active. And don't forget, I am logged and set up as an agency administrator. Somebody noticed that they're no longer an agency administrator. So there is an administrator account. And there used to be administrator roles. So if I just go into one of these people, there used to be a administrator role, and that role is no longer available to you. Only the agency administrator role. It allows you to do a lot of the same things. You just can't do any customizations, and you can't create new values in drop-downs. We're just trying to make sure that everything is consistent across all of the users. So if you were an official administrator, like a full administrator, you should be an agency administrator. If you're an administrator with no customization, you probably got put into the regular users role. If there is no one in your agency that has the agency administrator role, let us know and we'll get connected, and we'll set it up, because we still have myself as well as myself support, as well as the coalition, Katie and Azella. They have access to the full administrator role, so you can contact any of us and we can help set you up as an agency administrator if no one had that. Question here, can I delete an activity? Yes, if you were a if you are an agency administrator, you do have the ability to delete records. Okay, well, it looks like the questions have pretty much died off. So hopefully we've answered a lot of your questions that you had and set your mind at ease that this is actually going to be a lot better for you in the short and long run, especially when we can create accurate reports that don't miss anything and will run faster, and you can trust the results that you're getting, both in the Flex style and in the spreadsheet style that are soon to come. One other thing too, that one of the things that we did, all of these values here, the way that these things are spelled, especially things like trans female, male to female, or female to male, this is the exact spelling that HUD is looking for. So before, if you had a value of, say, transgender female, and you had created a new HUD report, you would have had to gone in and fill out the gender by itself because it's not an acceptable value. These are the acceptable values from HUD, so you should be, it should save you a few steps of filling out some of those fields when you create HUD records. Oh, and here's a reminder for everybody. I'm not sure if anybody has seen the email, and hopefully you have, but there is a new HUD report out right now. It has been released, and Sage is only accepting this new report. I wonder if I have it here so I can show it to you. Yeah, so the new report will say HUD COC APR and ESG Caper 2018. I don't know what the version number is, but the description will say 2018. So take a look for that. If you don't have it, say by tomorrow, send a note to Katie. Katie, I'm going to give you some extra work. Katie, just let us know which agencies have not received that report. It should have been pushed out to everybody automatically. So you should be using that HUD COC APR ESG Caper 2018 report starting now going forward, as Sage will no longer accept the 2017 report for upload. So that's wonderful HUD. They like to make changes really quick, and they don't give us a lot of time or say in anything. But I guess that concludes the end of our probably our first training. I'm not sure if it's going to be our last training session, but I hope you enjoy the new layout. It's been a lot of fun trying actually making it. I've really enjoyed it. I enjoy working with all of you guys. So thank you for your assistance and your feedback, and I look forward to doing more with you guys soon. Like I said before, this video will be made available. I will send the link to Katie and Azella, and we will be able to get that out to you right away. So if someone did miss this, they'll have access to that. Okay, thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll be talking in the future. Take care.